Welcome, everyone. Today, we're going to focus on the process of moving from a state standard to a clear learning target, developing a SMART objective, and creating formative assessments that allow us to know whether students have mastered the skill. The goal is to move away from simply asking, "Did we teach the standard?" and instead focus on the more important question: what evidence do we have that students learned the standard? Effective instruction begins with knowing what students are expected to learn. Standards provide the destination, but teachers must create clear learning targets that students can understand. The assessment process should not happen only at the end of a unit. Formative assessment allows teachers to check progress throughout learning and make adjustments before students fall behind. This process aligns closely with the PLC model because teachers collaborate around essential standards, student evidence, and next steps. The first step in creating effective learning goals is finding the standard. Standards describe what students should know and be able to do. Teachers should avoid creating activities first and trying to connect them to standards afterward. The standard should guide the learning experience from the beginning. Here is an example standard. These are from the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, or TEKS. This is 8th grade English, which is my subject. Students will analyze the controlling idea and specific purpose of a text and explain how the author uses rhetorical appeals. This standard requires students to analyze how an author communicates an argument. It is not enough for students to identify rhetorical appeals. Students must explain how those appeals contribute to the author's purpose. This distinction is important because it helps teachers create a learning target that measures deeper understanding. When unpacking standards, the verbs are often the most important part. Words such as identify, analyze, compare, and explain require different levels of thinking. Understanding the skill helps teachers create better objectives and assessments. I would like for you to think about what verbs in the standard on the screen previously tell us what students must be able to do. So, going back to the verb analyze, the students will analyze the controlling idea and explain how the author uses rhetorical appeals. So those are deeper levels of thinking than simply identifying the controlling idea, being able to point it out. A standard is usually broad, so teachers need to transform it into a measurable learning objective. A SMART objective tells students exactly what they are learning, how success will be measured, and when they should demonstrate mastery. Notice that the SMART objective includes all 5 components. It is specific because it identifies the skill. It is measurable because students produce a paragraph using a rubric. It is achievable because it is appropriate for the lesson. It is relevant because it is directly connected to the TEKS. It is time-bound because students complete it by the end of the lesson. Formative assessments are not simply additional grades. Their purpose is to provide information that teachers can use immediately. In a PLC, formative assessment data helps teachers determine who needs intervention, who needs additional practice, and who is ready for enrichment. Before beginning instruction, teachers need to know where students are starting. Pre-assessments allow us to avoid reteaching concepts students already understand while identifying students who need additional support. During instruction, teachers should continuously check for understanding. If students cannot explain how a rhetorical appeal affects the audience, then the teacher knows additional modeling or practice is needed before moving forward. This is where PLC collaboration becomes important. The assessment itself is not the final step. The important part is what teachers do with the information. The purpose of standards, objectives, and assessments. The purpose of standards, objectives, and assessments is to ensure that every student has the opportunity to learn. When teachers clearly identify expectations, create measurable goals, and use formative assessment data, they create a system where students can demonstrate mastery and teachers can respond when students need additional support. This process is the foundation of effective PLC work because it keeps the focus where it belongs: student learning. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.